this project I made in 2 days using AI, and I made a website that would create vision boards. Hey guys, I haven't made a video in a while. I was trying to decide like what to make the video about, but today I decided to just turn on the camera and talk. So I recently made this website, and it's related to using Pinterest boards and also the RSS file. Well, it's not a file, but it's kind of like a link that you can use as long as the Pinterest board is public, and that usually shows you about 20 photos from that Pinterest board. And then with those photos, I used a library to allow the user to customize and how many columns and rows and photos they want to be displayed, and then they can download that photo. So the inspiration behind this idea was, there's a thing called the vision board, and usually every year you want to make a vision board. It's kind of like your goals, motivations, aspirations, what you want. And I wanted to make one of these, right? So I made one of these, and what I had to do was I went on Pinterest, type a little search. I found some, pretty hair, pretty clothes, pretty nails. I got those photos, I copied it. I went into Canva, and then, I pasted it, and then I had to put them all together, and with no white space between them, no empty space between them. So, me as a lazy person, I was like, I've had this issue before, right? Where I was like, it's kind of like, it felt like more work. Okay, I was just being lazy, and I just want an easy way. How can I achieve the goal of this vision board by just clicking some buttons, right? Like some customizations. So the downfall of my project is that the RSS only provides 20 photos. So those 20 photos, I'm not sure if they're the most recent or the oldest photos, right? But anyways, there's 20 photos. So I decided to make this project. So the tech stack for this project is React, Next.js, TypeScript, and Tailwind CSS. Honestly, I didn't really utilize the Next.js capabilities, but I also ended up needing to make this a full stack project because there were some course errors, because I would try to get those photos from the RSS link, right? Because there's a source URL, and I would try to load that on my client, but because of course issues, Pinterest didn't allow that. So I had to make my own server so that I can access those photos and then give it to my client, the front end. But this is a pretty basic project, but I wanted to, get the job done. I think that for me, sometimes I like to just keep it simple, keep it to the point, make a project just easily, right? And I'm going to preface that I did use ChatGPT and I did use githubcopilot. So most of this code, 90% of this code or even more, was written by AI and not me. I did run into a bug where for some reason, if I customize how many columns or rows and download the image for the second time, it would be just one photo repeatedly shown, right? And it would not be the result that I wanted. I eventually fixed this issue. It took 2 days. But after that, I was really proud, honestly, of this project, because normally I would have been if there's a bug, okay, well, do we really need that feature, right? But for this one, it was something closer to my heart, I guess, because it's something that I could potentially use in my own life and maybe other people's as well. So I'll show a demo, and I'm also going to put all the links down below to the websites, to my GitHub, and we'll go from there. I think most of my projects are probably going to have this theme just because it's things that resonate with me more. So if you're interested in that, then please like and subscribe for more. I'm thinking if I should create videos for a project I'm currently working on, or also make videos for previous projects I've made. Let me know if you're interested in what sources I keep up with, what technologies I like to use, what AI resources, and if you want videos on that. Recently, I started watching Starter Story. I think it gives me motivation to make videos like this because I definitely want to make my own kind of, website or app to monetize. I think that's one of the best things about being a developer is that you don't need to necessarily outsource, maybe for marketing, but I think because the capabilities are in your own hands, especially with AI these days, that nothing is off the table. I think a common theme that I come around to seeing is that you don't need to make something revolutionary. You just need an idea that exists and maybe is trending or at least has some kind of group of people or community that needs this tool or can have a better version of it, and you just put a little twist on it, put an extra feature, and you can come up with a good product. So let me list out what this project consists of. So it will convert publicly available Pinterest boards. Now you can make your own, or I'll provide you some of my Pinterest boards so you can test if you want. And this is done through using the RSS feed. Honestly, this is something that I've only heard of when I was looking into creating this project, because I had the idea, but I was not sure how I was going to execute it. So there's two ways. One way was to use the RSS feed, and the second way was to use some kind of web scraping, right? Because I would need to load the Pinterest board and then have, a web scraper to instantly scroll. And regarding that, there are some, I think, legal concerns, and also that would be slow, and who knows how many Pinterest photos someone can have in their Pinterest board. It could be thousands. So I decided to do the RSS feed. It seemed simpler. And also, I want to emphasize that if you like this idea and maybe you want to build on top of it, feel free to do so. So this website is also mobile friendly and responsive, and I also handled it to be course safe, and so that the backend can handle when we are fetching the images from Pinterest. So I want to say that this idea came to life within 2 days, and while I know that this project is very simple, I think that there was many things I had no idea of, but I learned once I used ChatGPT to ask it, how can I make this idea come to life? And thankfully, I am a web developer, so I did have some context regarding this. I know these days that you can use Lovable.dev and you can build an idea based off of a prompt, and you can even add Supabase to it as your database and authentication and storage. And I actually made a project using Lovable, and it's related to content creation prompts, because sometimes I'm not sure what kind of video I want to make, but this was just a simple idea and I wanted to test Lovable.dev if it could make what I wanted to do. And I didn't include any backend or anything, just to keep it super simple and minimal, but I'll leave a link to it and I'll show how it works. Now, I want to get down to the nitty gritty, which is what I actually used to create this. I know that I said I used AI, but most of the idea was not too complex. As in, I had a backend to load photos. I also used 2 libraries to get my final result. The main library that allowed me to achieve this customization of the vision board was React Photo Album. Now, the library allows you to customize the columns, the row, the type of layout, and masonry, and also the amount of photos. So what I did was I took that and I provided the Pinterest photos, and then I used another library to convert this canvas, this board I had of images, into an image. I used to convert the board into image was HTML to image. On the image, it'll actually be pretty high definition depending on the device you're on. So let's say you're on your laptop and you're on, a MacBook. Now, the image, depending on the customizations you've made, it could become like, 1920 by 1080 or even larger image size. And if you're on your phone, then you can also customize it so that it'll be in a portrait mode, and you can use it for your iPhone wallpaper, right? Or your MacBook wallpaper, laptop wallpaper, anything. And as I previously mentioned, there was a bug that basically why this project took 2 days. It would have taken maybe 1 day if this issue hadn't occurred. Take the photo from Pinterest and convert it into a base 64. While this might take up more space, this solved my issue. After the first download, all the other times you would try to download after that, unless you refresh the page, request was canceled. And it wasn't canceled by me. The image was no longer available for some reason. And so in order to make it available, I decided to convert the image we would get on that first fetch into base 64, and we would load that base 64 image in our vision board. And that way we would always know what it would look like because we had the encoding of the image. Current RSS link that the user is using to generate the vision board doesn't change, then we don't need to refetch these new images every single time. You can just have it in base 64, and that way it will work as intended. And if the user ever wanted to use a different vision board, then they can put the link and generate again. If they updated the photos in their Pinterest board because they want to use different photos, then they can refresh the page or click generate and it'll be done. Alright, and that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed or learned something, and I hope you check the project out, and I hope it inspires you.